What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 10-7 MMA Show. And we are back. First and foremost, Happy New Year's, everybody. Happy 2025. Very, very excited for this brand new year. I'm feeling very positive, very motivated. Always feeling pretty motivated, but feeling extra motivated this year. Got a lot of new projects, and the channel is growing. We just hit 540 subscribers today, like 2 minutes ago, which is pretty cool. And we got some videos that have done quite well recently. The Dakota Disheva video, if you haven't seen that yet and you're not familiar with her, she's an amazing Muay Thai fighter, kickboxer that is in the PFL, that is just crushing, that is super, super talented. Western Mass Climber, what's up, what's up? Happy New Year. And also made an interesting video that's now starting to pick up on some views yesterday or 2 days ago about Colby Chaos Covington. You guys should check that out as well. I'd really love to know everybody's opinions and thoughts on Colby, because here's where I'm at now. And I do try my best to not be a source of negativity in the world of mixed martial arts. We have so many people that criticize the UFC, they criticize fighters, that do all these things. And let it be known, I have a tremendous amount of respect for pretty much all UFC fighters and professional fighters in general. They do something that I cannot do and am scared to do. I love to train, I love to spar, but even sparring, I like to spar light, right? So they are all have superpowers that I do not possess, and I want to make sure and remember that they are a part of a sport that I love, number one, and number two, they do something and put themselves on the line in ways that I'm not capable of doing. So I need to be respectful and careful with my words. At least I believe that. But one thing I will say about Colby, and we're going to have Justin joining right now. One thing I will say about Colby, and this is why I made the video about Colby Covington that's starting to pick up some views. What's up, Justin? I'm just explaining the reason why I made this video on Colby. Is because I just keep thinking about the way he carries himself, the way he's been talking after the Joaquin Buckley fight, the things he said leading up to the Leon Edwards fight, other negative things that he said about other people and other fighters. I just can't get behind him as a human being and as a person. I'm not even going deep on his fighting and saying, oh, he did terrible, this and that, because again, I have to take that within the context of, in my opinion, could I have done better? Definitely not, right? But if you contrast how he did with the narrative that he's trying to spin now, plus all the other negative things, plus, like, I showed a bunch of things in the video about how he'd say, like, hey, I have to cut no weight because I'm not a weight bully. And then you see him after the weight cut and he looks like Skeletor and he's about to die. And it's just lie after lie after lie. And I'm sorry, like, I can't respect somebody who just pathologically lies, number one, who goes after people in a personal way. And you can't hide. The time has passed where you can hide behind, it's just a character. You can't do that anymore when you're saying real things about Leon Edwards, about John Jones, about LeBron James. You're saying real stuff. So now, to me, that's kind of like a cowardly way to approach it and just be like, and I'm not saying he's necessarily even doing that, because he, in his own statements, has said, no, that's me, just turned up to 11. So maybe he's taken some ownership. But at this point, all the things he said about Ian Gary, it's like, I just can't respect it anymore. And I had to make a video about it, pointing it out, because it is the truth. And I want to let people know. The other last thing I want to say, and Justin, you let me know what you think about this. Colby, the biggest problem I have is if he was just pure and simple, a piece of crap through and through, I'd have less of a problem with it. Where I have an issue is when he does try and actually be a role model for kids and for people by talking about law enforcement, who I have the utmost respect for. But now you conflate your piece of crap message where you're just saying negative and hurtful things with somebody who's trying to stand up for law enforcement and the right things. You confuse people, especially you confuse kids. You'd be like, oh, no, he's not such a bad guy. He's saying these right things and trying to actually stand up for law and all this stuff. Well, how are you being an upstanding citizen when you're going out and spreading all these lies? And what I said in the video is what I think is at the root of crime and criminals is lying, is deceit, is being dishonest. If you have a tendency to do that, where do you stop? And now this goes back to the allegations that he didn't pay out his coach, right? That's what Jorge Masvidal said from the beginning. That's stealing. That's, you gave your word to somebody and you didn't pay them. So as far as in my book, you're a thief and you're crossing that criminal line. So how are you going to go out there and say, hey, let's support the boys in blue? So it's these contrasts, it's these issues that have just made me feel a little bit grossed out by everything he does. And I had to make the video also in part for the youth that may be mistakenly looking up to him. I don't think he should be looked up to, and I don't think he should be respected. Justin, what are your thoughts?
I mean, you know how I feel about Colby Covington, man. It's you. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I couldn't have said it better myself. Like this. Remember, when you're top in the UFC, you have all eyes on you, including kids. And kids, who do kids want to be? They want to be the champion, or they want to be the next champion. So when you see Colby on his reign, coming up, fighting for the belt. I think it was 3 times. Like the kids are watching him. The kids are seeing what he's doing. And they're seeing, how he's instigating fights at the at the ceremonial weigh-ins, at the press conferences, backstage. Jorge Masvidal was so irritated with him, he walked up to him at a restaurant and punched him in the mouth. I mean, this is just like, man, that's one thing when I run a kids program in Vegas, as you know. I coach high school wrestling, as you know, and it's in Colby being such a great wrestler, in his heyday. It's like, man, I cannot have my kids looking up to this guy. I do not want my kids. I don't want to. I wouldn't want to coach anybody that acts like this guy. I mean, I get the show, I get the circus, I get all that, but where's the line? Where's the boundary line? And this guy just keeps, like you're saying, he's not only just talking outlandish shit on his opponents, on his former friends, but he's also lying too, man. And just like you said, you hit it right on the head. Like, where's the line? Once you lie about one thing, where's the line drawn about everything else? So yeah, I agree with you, and I agree with the video you're making.
All right, so check this out. We've got a couple comments. Two Smelly Fingers, who defended me in the comments earlier this week. What's up? Thank you for that. Colby talks a lot of smack like Conor, makes it interesting, and it makes it seem like he's invested in the fight, and it goes sideways. He does. That is true. The way that he goes about these fights, he does take on a lot of basically, he gives people license to totally crap on him. Maybe like I'm doing, I guess, right now, because he's talking all this negative stuff and going deep on people. So when he puts that pressure on himself, when he loses, he's got to eat it. But now he has developed this habit of, like, after the fact, because he keeps losing, of just coming up with these excuses and keeps trying to push a narrative that he really won or he was robbed, all this other nonsense. Celine, what's up? Happy New Year to Western Mass Climber. Two Smelly Fingers also says, Kobe, I think he means Colby. I'm sure it talks a lot of smack just like Conor, but that he basically said the same thing. And here it is. Kobe is a bad guy, but villains are needed for a good story. I guess you could say that. I mean, that's a fair point. Okay, fine. I want to see Colby fight again. I want to see him fight one guy and one guy only, Ian Gary. Let Ian Gary have a shot. Two Smelly Fingers, you agree with me? No, I get what you're saying. Tell me if you agree with me. I want to see him fight Ian Gary. That's the fight to make. He talked a lot of smack about that guy. And whatever you want to say about his personal life, yeah, Ian Gary, you said you agree, right? Yeah, okay, cool. So that's not a bad guy. Sometimes Colby hides behind hey, well, he's a bad guy. I should be able to say what I want. What has Ian Gary done? He hasn't done anything. So fight him. Stop talking smack and fight him. All right, let's get into the show. First show of 2025. We've got a card coming up on January 11th. I know not everybody's so excited about this fight night, but there is one guy on this card that I am super. Actually, there's more than just one guy. There's another up-and-comer that's on this card as well, but we'll talk about him next week. Austin Bashi from Michigan. What's up? But we got another amazing rising star in the UFC. One of the most incredible fighters, I think, on the come up right now. We got Payton Talbott. Payton Talbott returns. And he is fighting a gentleman named Raoni Barsalis. Okay. I do know, or I may be pronouncing that name wrong. Justin, are you familiar with Raoni, or Hayoni? It might be pronounced Barsalos.
I haven't. I've never heard of him, but you did get me on the Payton Talbott train. I've watched a couple of his interviews. I like this kid, man. He seems like a down to earth kid that just likes to get in fights, man. And he's really tough. So I am looking forward to this matchup, regardless of me not knowing his opponent.
So Payton Talbott is so cool. If you guys haven't checked him out, again, this is a funny thing, right? In the Colby video, not to just keep going back to Colby, but he talks about when he was on the Candace Owens show, hey, I had to create a character because people weren't watching, people weren't tuning in. So that's why I started saying all this negative stuff and whatnot. But at the end of the day, that's just because, sorry to say, Kobe's just regular personality and persona is just, people don't gravitate towards it. It is what it is. But the real stars in this sport, in my opinion, they don't have to manufacture a character. And Payton Talbott is a shining example of that. He's not outlandish. He's not crazy. He's just a very cool, confident individual. And he's also tremendously talented. And his fighting style is really fun. I mean, well, let me back up on that. I feel like when people say a fighting style is fun, it's because they're a striker, right? Like, it's kind of BS. It's kind of BS because wrestling is dope as well. And I'm very excited to see, for example, Merab versus Umar, or I don't know how Islam versus Arman's going to go, but that's going to be a great matchup. I thought Aljo versus Mavzev Evloev was a great fight as well. A very interesting grappling match. But yes, Payton Talbott is known for flash knockouts early on. But he's a well-rounded fighter as well. Now, another thing, did you look at the odds for this fight yet?
I have not.
Payton Talbott. Well, the funny thing is, I was trying to understand why they're the way they are. So I watched some highlights of Hayoni Barsalos, and he actually looks pretty good to me, but the odds are minus 1100 for Payton Talbot. How is that? I mean, how is that a thing? Hayoni, he's not like a total newbie. He's got a record of 18-5, a professional record of 18-5. How does a minus 1100 even make sense?
I mean, here's the thing. When you get odds like over minus fucking 800, I mean, that's the UFC directly saying indirectly. I don't know if that makes sense. Directly, indirectly, that they want to build this kid. You know,
Sure.
just like how they're doing fuck, what's his name? The redhead wrestler. Oh, I can't think of his name right now.
Bo Nickel.
Bo Nickel, yeah, exactly. He was like a minus 1200 favorite, but they want to throw him in there. They want to see that he can perform. You know, is he gonna go out there and win a decision? And this kind of what is gonna tell. I think the UFC does this intentionally, just like they did with Bo. They're gonna give him a matchup where he's a huge favorite, and they want to see if he can rise to the occasion under the UFC banner, under the UFC lights. When you're supposed to win, like you're minus 1100, like Bo is minus 1200, like you need something, you know, awesome, you know, and that's what the UFC is looking for. They're giving this kid a chance against somebody that's not nearly as good. And I mean, literally, they're saying at minus 1100, that's like a 92% favorite. Like it's something. It's really crazy like that. So again, this is the UFC giving this guy an opportunity to display his showcase at the biggest show in the world. You know, the biggest venue in the world, and that's on the UFC banner. And let's see if he can rise to the occasion. I really hope he does, because again, watching his interviews, I really like the things he has to say. He has a great personality. He's not an asshole. He's just he's just a tough kid, and he seems down to earth. You know, but with that being said, you know, he gets a little fame in the UFC. That could all change as well.
I don't see it with him. I just see him being so down to earth, so chill. You guys got to watch an interview of him. He's actually really funny too. Nah, he's the man. Now the thing is, if you look at his opponent is 37. Not that old. I still think that's like relatively close to your prime, or maybe even in his prime, depending on how he's taking care of himself. We see Bilal Muhammad as champ at 36 or nearly 37, but he has fought some big. I mean, he fought Umar Nurmagomedov. He's had, I think, 9 fights in the UFC. Kyler Phillips in his last fight was against Christian Quinones, if I'm saying that right, and he got a victory there, finish in the 3rd round. He is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu specialist. I don't know. I feel like the minus 1100s maybe a little bit of an exaggeration, but it does seem like Payton Talbot is definitely favored to win. You got to check this guy out. He is superstar through and through, so I cannot wait for this fight. We shall see how it goes down. Yeah.
From a betting standpoint, man, this sounds dangerous. It sounds real dangerous. It sounds like that plus money on the other side is going to have a lot of value in that, because, again, Payton Talbot is an incredible up-and-comer, but, again, he has to rise to the occasion. This guy, you said, had 8 or 9 fights already in the UFC.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know anything about this guy, but there's something that, you know, a lot of professional sports bettors say. It's when there's a lot of hype behind someone, you know, take the other side. And, you know, this guy has a lot of hype, and he's untested so far. He has 2 fights in the UFC, he's 2-0 or 1-0.
Let me double check his record. I can't remember.
Not Dana White Contender Series, but in the UFC.
Right. Let me double check. Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to look it up. I know he's 9-0 professional, but I'll tell you in the UFC, he's had, okay, so after Contender Series, he had 3 fights.
Okay, so he's 3-0. That's very impressive. But now he's going against a seasoned vet, man. This guy says 8 or 9. It's just another day in the office for him. You know, he's already been there and done that. Like, I don't know. I mean, it's probably going to be like plus 800 on the other side.
Yes, it is. It is plus 800.
Plus 8, yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of value in that, man. And again, not saying, I mean, is Payton going to win 92% of the time or 93% of the time? That's hard to say, man, especially with, again, everybody in the UFC is tough. This guy's fought 9 times in the UFC. You know, the UFC is keeping him around because he's fucking tough. And, you know, I think I'm putting money on the other side. As much as I do want Payton to win, I just don't think he wins this fight almost 95% of the time.
For sure. I am just, from the fan perspective, betting aside, am always very excited. I love to see those undefeated records. I don't know why, but that adds something to it. I remember you mentioned how Ronda Rousey says you got to protect that O. And it is exciting from the fan perspective to see somebody be potentially so dominant. Add to that his cool personality. He's like a skateboarder. He's got crazy tattoos that are really, I don't know, he's just like a cool fighter that you can get behind. But the most important thing is he's genuine, authentic himself, opposite of Colby Covington. Anyways, moving on. Let's go to another great matchup that is at UFC 311. Not this week, but next weekend in Los Angeles. Unfortunately, I won't be here. But Moicano versus Dariush, dude. I've been watching a lot of interviews of Money Moicano. He is the man. He's so funny. He's very intelligent. Talks a lot about finances as well, cryptocurrency and other investments, the strength of the dollar. He's very big into economics. But anyways, he's talking about, he's fighting a very tough opponent in Beneil Dariush. Amazing opponent, excuse me, who was on the verge of a title shot and lost, I believe, to what's his name? I think he was on the verge. He lost to Charles Oliveira, if I remember correctly. He was right up there, otherwise to get a title shot. And a lot of people were picking him to win that fight. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe I'm remembering that right. Now he's had a couple losses, but he's going against Moicano, and Moicano is hot. I think on a 5 or 6 fight win streak, just crushing lately. And Moicano is, I also want to say 34 or 35, but he's just got this new mindset, and it just says every time, I cannot lose. I will not allow myself to lose. I must win, making this final amazing title run. And what Beneil said in a recent interview is that what he sees as the biggest difference in Moicano's game is his strategy. He's fighting intelligently. He's creating distinct game plans and executing on those game plans, most notably beating Benoit Saint-Denis last time, where Benoit Saint-Denis was definitely favored to win, and Moicano pulled out a very impressive victory. Justin, from the buildup, from what you know of these two fighters, what are you expecting out of this fight?
Dude, I love this fight, man. I'm a huge Beneil fan. When I fought in California, he was in the back when I was warming up, and him and I were chopping it up, because we kind of connected at the UFC PI a couple times. And dude, the guy he's I can't root against this guy. And I know Moicano is a favorite. I bet he's going to be the favorite in this fight. He's smoking hot coming in. I love hearing this guy on the mic. He has incredible trash talk. But when you know Beneil like I do, man, nobody would ever. This guy is like one of the most genuine family men you could ever meet, man. And he's so nice and he's so humble. And, I'm in my warm-up room and I saw him walk in. I didn't want to say anything to him in case, I didn't want to bother him. I was warming up anyways. And he went out of his way to come over and say what's up to me and see how I was doing. He knew I had neck surgery because they talked about it at the UCPI. And I just thought that was really cool, man. So I had a really good I feel like I have a really good connection with Beneil Dariush. He's just such a humble, hardworking, tough guy. And Moicano, though, on the other hand, dude, I'm a big fan of both of these guys. Obviously, one's personal, one's more theatrical because I like the way he talks on the mic. And we talk about that, being a fan of fighters more of how they are on the mic. I'm more of a fan of Beneil because of how tough he is and how he is outside of the cage. And I'm a huge fan of Moicano because of how he is on the mic. I think this fight has fireworks. Unfortunately, I feel Beneil, he's kind of on his decline, and Moicano on his way up right now. He's on, you said, a 5 or 6 fight win streak. That's incredible to put together in the UFC. This is a perfect matchup for him. Again, Beneil just, he was 1 fight away from a title fight, and, he just kind of came up short, and trying to get that motivation back at his age, I think is going to be really tough, and I see Money Moicano winning this fight all day.
Now, it's a quick correction. Is actually a 4 fight win streak. I just double checked. But yeah, just to say, to add on or pile on to what you're saying about Beneil Dariush, also a fighter that I'm a big fan of. I also like the way he carries himself. He's one of those guys that's super authentic, very real, down to earth, good guy through and through. Actually, he had one of the funniest call outs after one of his victories. I can't remember who he beat, but people were like crapping on it and said that was stupid. I thought it was hilarious. I never heard anything like it. Do you remember this? He called out Elon Musk because he was trying to get it. He had bought a Tesla and he was waited like 5 months.
Had waited. Yeah.
Everybody's like, he blew the call out. I'm like, dude, that was hilarious. Nobody's ever done that. And he got his car shipped to him within like the next couple weeks. Like Elon Musk heard about it and got him his car. I thought that was hilarious. So yeah, I'm a big fan of both of these guys. And you're the expert on this. I'm just making kind of a pure conjecture, but I would lean towards Moicano. The odds are actually pretty close. It's -200. So it's a pretty close odds in my opinion. Not too crazy. Another site had it at -165 for Moicano. So not that too far off, but yeah, the only reason why I would probably lean towards Moicano is, again, because of the streak and because of the momentum. And it seems like his mindset is just rock solid. He is so determined to win. Even in his last victory, he had some like crazy shoulder injury. You could see his bones sticking out. It was insane, but he fought through it. So I think there's something to that mental strength that Moicano is showing lately. But anyways, it's going to be a great fight. UFC 311. Holy smokes.
Let me interject for you for 1 second.
Go for it.
If you guys haven't seen Beneil Dariush fight before, do yourself a favor and watch Beneil Dariush versus Drakkar Klaus. It is an incredible fight. Drakkar is one of the toughest guys I've ever met. You know, me and him, we wrestled against each other in state finals. He's from Michigan as well. He's an incredible fighter. Beneil, man, it's just a great fight. But hey, you want to hear something funny, kind of off subject, or talking about what you're talking about? You talk about the momentum, you know, in fighting. He's on a 4-fight win streak. He has all this momentum. Did you know that a lot, if not most, I shouldn't say most, but I know a lot of professional gamblers say that they don't think momentum in sports is a real thing.
Tell me
This
more.
is so whatever's like the probability is always the same. As this is how Aaron explains it, the probability is always the same. Whether they've scored 2 touchdowns in a row, because what if they scored when we talk about football, when we talk about momentum, I think we should do a show, bring Aaron on, and I want to hear the professional side of momentum is not a real thing. I disagree wholeheartedly as a professional athlete. I think when you're on a big streak, 5-fight, 6-fight win streak, that you feel confident and you perform better than compared when you're losing. But I've heard at least 3 or 4 professional gamblers, like that's all they do, is they said they do not believe in momentum.
So if you look at it from a strict mathematical perspective, okay, we have 2 different types of probability. You have independent probability and dependent probability. Independent probability comes into play really well for something like roulette, right? Even if you see that it has hit black like 7 of the last times, it's not like, oh, we're more likely to hit red. That the previous outcomes don't affect the subsequent outcomes. So we call that independent probability. It's irrelevant. The reason why I would now again, if maybe you look,
I disagree with him. I think momentum is huge in sports, all sports.
And again, and just to contrast it with this, right? Why I would call this dependent probability, or why? But again, maybe the numbers show something different. I have to really look at it from a mathematical perspective. But like, dependent probability means the previous outcome influences the subsequent outcome in some way. The easiest example is when you're drawing out of a deck of cards, right? And if you draw 1 heart and you don't put it back, your odds of drawing a heart the next time have diminished because now there's 1 less heart. The way we would make an analogy in this sport is, again, if it raises your confidence levels and your mental state and whatever, that should theoretically impact the odds. So I would be surprised. And you've also said from a fighter perspective that it does help you tremendously and you're more likely to win when you're on a streak. So I'd want to know what the numbers are behind that claim, because it doesn't make sense to me, but I could be wrong. I haven't dove in and looked at the numbers. So maybe the numbers.
I would love for you guys to have a debate, because I would love to learn on both sides. Because again, I think confidence and momentum are a parallel line. You know, when you're winning, you have momentum. You also have confidence, and I think when you're more confident, you're going to perform better. But again, I'd like to hear Aaron. Again, we got to have Aaron on and have his side to this, because he explains to me. I'll be talking about football like, Lions will be down by 21 points, and next thing you know, they're down by fucking 1 touchdown. I'm like, oh, they got momentum. And then he'll be like, oh, momentum's not a real thing. And it's like, I think it is. But anyways, moving on.
Yeah, I would be, it has to be within context, and we'd have to look at the numbers. Like, it wouldn't even necessarily be a debate. We'd have to look at the numbers in particular. But my initial instinct is that can't be true just because of what we know about flow state. And we've heard numerous athletes talk about this feeling of getting into flow state and it feeling easy. Like Kobe Bryant's talked about it, other basketball players, football players, as well as mixed martial artists. You get into this mindset and where you're just like, everything makes sense and you're kind of flowing, you're not thinking. So I don't know, but that would be a very interesting conversation. I'd love to know numerically why he has that position. Okay. Let's move on to topic number 3. Of course, Khamzat Chimaev finds his way back on our show in some capacity, but this is just a fight that I don't even think it's happening. I think it's all cap and BS. But I wanted to go on record, and I know, Justin, you got to go in 2 minutes, so no worries.
I can push a little bit. A little bit.
So look, this is what people have been saying. They've been saying, why didn't Khamzat get the Dricus fight? And now Pereira is saying that he's not going to be fighting Magomed Ankalaev. And so the speculation is that Khamzat didn't get scheduled there. Pereira is still waiting for an opponent, doesn't have one yet. They're going to put Khamzat versus Pereira at light heavyweight. I don't know. Have you heard? First of all, have you even heard about this rumor?
I've never even heard this rumor. This is the first time, but I mean, I know you'd know most about Khamzat more than anybody I know.
I think it's total cap. I think it's nonsense. But even if it's a possibility, I want to go on record and I want to explain my perspective. And you guys let me know in the comments what you think. I don't want to see this fight. whatsoever. And now maybe this is a little bit personal to me, but I really hope the UFC doesn't make this. I want to tell you why. So these are two fighters. These are both my number one and number two favorite fighters in the UFC right now. Khamzat number one, Pereira number two. The last thing, this is why I didn't want to see Dustin Poirier fight, what's his name, Justin Gaethje. I did not want to see that fight because these are two guys that are probably most people's favorite fighters in the lightweight division. And I get it. Like at some point they're going to have to fight potentially, but I'm just saying I wasn't excited about that fight because one guy has to lose. And it's the same thing here. I mean, obviously I'd be rooting for Khamzat Chimaev, but I don't want Pereira to lose. I don't, and both of these guys are big stars. I mean, right? Do you agree with me? I feel like this would be a poor decision on the part of the UFC, but what do you think?
I agree with you. I don't like it. I mean, and Khamzat is not a light heavyweight. You know what I mean? It's like going up to that weight class. I know you'd be rooting for Khamzat, but you know what? I think Pereira would just be too big for him, man, to be honest. And I mean, with his size and strength, and he's been working on his grappling and wrestling, I'm not going to say that he's a better grappler than Khamzat, of course not. But what I am going to say is he's much bigger, and his defense might be good enough to hold him at bay to knock him out. I don't want to see this matchup. I don't want to see Khamzat lose, and most of all, I don't want to see Pereira lose.
Well, I think Khamzat would win, and Robert Whitaker has also said in his podcast like he thinks Khamzat would smoke Pereira. I do think he would. I think Khamzat is just a superior fighter to pretty much most fighters in the UFC. I think that will be proven this year and in years to come. And the problem with Alex is obviously there's just such a discrepancy in their two skill sets. Of course, Pereira could catch him coming in. Obviously, there's always that chance, and he's got a lot of weapons and things like that. But just like he did with Robert Whitaker, who has tremendous has tremendous grappling and takedown defense, to do what he did to him, who's like probably arguably the best middleweight in the division, even though he lost to Dricus du Plessis. I think he might be the best or one of the best, even still, despite his ranking and position. But I don't know. I don't see him doing much against him. And by the way, Western Mass Climber did throw in a comment here. I really hope they don't do the Poirier Gaethje trilogy. Yeah, I agree, and I know they're talking about that. Let's not do that. Let's see Poirier fight. I don't know. Who would you want to see? Poirier is going to have one more fight. Who do you want to see him fight?
I like the Gaethje fight, man. And you know, Poirier said in his last fight, he doesn't care about winning the belt. He cares about having good fights and exciting fights that are people going to remember him for. And I tell you what, a trilogy fight between Justin Gaethje and Dustin is a huge fight, man. I mean, that has someone's getting starched. You know, and I think Dustin's going to get him. You know, I don't think Justin Gaethje's ever going to come back from the damage he took from Max Holloway. I mean, we talked about it before, dude. Like, you can't take that kind of damage consistently, and he's been taking so much damage for so many years. I think that final knockout really probably loosened him up. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the guy is just, you know, just a phenom in that sense. Is like he just can't be knocked out. But when you take a damaging knockout like that, and plus adding on all the damage he's taken through the years, I think Dustin Poirier knocks him out in 3 rounds.
Woo. Okay, well, I guess we shall see. Like, I'd actually be down to see Dustin fight, I don't know, Nate Diaz. I would like to see him fight Colby if and only if it's like guaranteed that he smokes Colby. I do like the one reason why I don't want to see him fight Colby is because I think it would be too painful to see him lose to Colby. I would hate that so much. Yeah. But if we could guarantee that he smokes Colby, let's go. That'd be great. Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's my take on it. I kind of agree with Western, but I guess we'll see what happens. All right. Last topic I want to talk about. This is speculation. Okay. I've been duped a couple times in the last week. And I, again, apologize. Somebody was getting mad at me in the comments about the Patty versus Michael Chandler fight, where we did say in the title, hey, this fight's on, because we read a post that said it was on, but we didn't do I didn't do my due diligence. And I said on the show, oh, this is not guaranteed. This is like a farce. But anyways, just putting that out there. So we're definitely never trying to put out false information. That just is me learning the ropes here. But yeah, there is some speculation about Umar Nurmagomedov in UFC 311 being injured. So let me tell you where it comes from. Now, if you guys remember back last June when Michael Chandler was set to fight Conor McGregor, obviously, right? Big fight, big buildup. And that was happening on June 29th. I believe it was UFC 303, where Alex Pereira came in and saved the day like a legend. But anyways, so that fight was set up, and they had posted an interview or some fight promo for that fight. Now, leading up to the fight, ESPN or the UFC or whoever had posted it pulled the promo. And everybody, and I was trying to find it, and we were all wondering what's going on. And then a couple days later, they announced that the fight was off because of Conor's injury. Something like that has happened this weekend. There was a fight with Brett Okamoto and Umar Nurmagomedov talking about his matchup with Merab. And in that interview, also, Umar talks about his broken arm. And he talked about how he got the x-ray, but he still kept training. He still kept running with it. And then he showed it again, got the x-ray again. He didn't say it was healed, but he said it was much better. Speculation was that either maybe that injury reopened up and then they pulled the interview because the fight's off, or maybe they wanted to hide this injury from the public or the commission, or who knows what, right? This is all speculation. And so they pulled it down for whatever reason. Anyways, good news, because this is to me, this is the most exciting fight on the card. The good news is the interview was recently put back up. As of this morning, I think like 26 minutes before I woke up, I remember seeing the video and I'm like, sweet. Okay, let's hope this fight's still going on. Justin, turning it over to you. First and foremost, let me ask you this. Have you heard anything about this potential injury?
No, this is the first I've heard of it. Is from you. And I'm in Michigan right now, so I've been on social media a lot, and I haven't seen anything. I haven't even seen any fake posts about it. So I still will consider this speculation. I know the Russians are really secretive when they get injured. They try not to make it public, and that's the smartest way to go. So yeah, it could be speculation, but there's so much speculation. Don't you remember all the what was it? The skin infection that Merab had, or somebody had? I can't remember. Or was it Peter Yan? Yeah, they're like, oh yeah, look at, he has staph. Oh, that's why he's got it. It's like, dude, it's until the UFC comes out or until a doctor comes out and says anything, I try to not to believe anything.
I remember,
or if the betting line changes. Here's
right.
Another thing. This is huge, and for everybody watching, and Jose, maybe you know, maybe you don't know.
Okay.
A big reason to tell, and it happens in football a lot, is if you follow lines like I do. I don't follow the UFC lines because UFC is just so unpredictable. But as for football, like, you'll be watching a line and you'll see this team at, like, say, a minus 160 favorite, minus 160, minus 160. All of a sudden, they're minus 105. And when there's a big jump in that, there's only two things that could have changed that. It could have been an injury, or it could have been somebody put a lot of money on the other side to make it swing a little bit. It's usually an injury. So in the UFC, when you get a matchup like this, and now if Merab goes to a big favorite, bigger than like a minus 150 favorite, there's an injury, and that's the easiest way to tell if it's true or not.
Got it. Well, I just looked at the odds right now. Umar is still favored at minus 198. I think that's the most current odds. I watched that interview of Umar. Umar is, again, kind of like a Khabib type of personality, just straight shooter, talks openly and honestly. Man, when I watch him, I remember I was saying I was very split on how this fight could go. I really don't know, and that's what's so intriguing about it. But when you hear Umar talk, he's so darn confident, just like brimming with confidence. He's like, how would he beat me? How? He's like, yeah, I can wrestle too. He's going to take me down maybe once, but I'll get right back up. But there's nowhere where he's better than me. How is he going to beat me? Of course, anything can happen, but I just don't see it happening. I just don't think it's gonna go down. When I hear him talk so confidently like that, man, I feel like I have to pick Umar. What does that mean anything to you? Are you still leaning towards Merab in this fight?
No, I never. I mean,
My
wants are, I want Merab to win, dude. I just like him so much as a person. He's such a goofball in the gym. He's such just a funny guy, and he's one of those guys you just can't hope they lose, And unfortunately, Umar, man, especially without the injury now, if we're talking about the injury and he's at minus 190 now if something happens the week of the fight and he's all of a sudden at minus 125 or minus 120, that injury is probably real, and there's reason that money is switching lines. So, I mean, unfortunately, I do think Umar is in the spot to win right now. Merab's just going to have to keep the pressure on him. He's going to have to take him down. He's going to get back up, and the thing is, he's going to need 50 takedowns in this fight, man. And there's only one person in all of the UFC that has the gas tank to do that, and that's Merab. So, again, Umar talks about getting up. When people get up on Merab, he just takes them back down, or he has them pinned up against the fence in compromising positions. That's how this guy wins. So, yes, can Umar, maybe he get back up, but is he going to get taken back down in that turn as well?
And how is the broken arm going to influence things, right? Even if it's somewhat healed, it didn't, when he talked about it, it didn't sound like it was 100% healed. What is that going to feel like? Is there going to be pain? Is that going to prevent him from exerting his full force and strength when trying to get up off the ground or reversing positions? It's a very, very, very fascinating fight. I do think it's pretty clear that Umar, because Umar is a very excellent striker, and I think he's going to have for sure the striking advantage on the feet. But yeah, I don't know. That's why I'm just like very interested. And then you add on top of it, Merab seems so mad and angry at Umar, so it's got a little fire, it's got a little heat to it. But yeah, I guess we'll find out in about, 2 weeks. Let's go UFC 311. By the way, just last thing, we're going to end the show pretty much right now. UFC 311, January 18th. It's also the day that Justin and I will be commentating for Fusion Fight League. If you guys want to check that out, you can follow Fusion Fight League on their Facebook page. Just type in Fusion Fight League and you will be able to check it out. And we will be commentating live that night. I know we're probably going to be picking UFC 318 over watching our stream, but if you want to check it out a little bit, please go ahead and do so. We'd love to have you have your support. Last but not least, once again, Happy New Year, and thank you guys so much for your continued support. We are now at a point in the channel where we can receive donations, which is super cool, which is a brand new thing, and we're getting the membership set up hopefully by next week. We're in the process of researching and figuring out exactly how to provide you guys value. We've come up with a couple ideas, but let us know if there's particular perks or things that you would be interested in to see RE memberships, and we will make sure to include that and add those added benefits and little extras for you guys. That's it. Thank you guys so much for joining, and we will see you in the next episode. Take it easy.